So let's get to the news at the second hour of Morning Joe. Canada's newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with President Trump today at the White House. It comes amid heightened tensions between the two countries over Trump's tariffs and the president's repeated suggestion that Canada become the 51st U.S. state. Carney's office says the meeting will focus on trade and the security relationship between both countries. President Trump spoke yesterday about what he expects to discuss in the meeting today.
I don't know if he's coming to see me. I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. Everybody does. They all want to make a deal because we have something that they all want. We have something that they all want.
Meanwhile, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick voiced skepticism about a potential deal being reached.
I think it's really complex. I think this is really complex because they have been basically feeding off of us for decades upon decades upon decades, right? They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on. So I think the president's going to have... I think it's going to be a fascinating meeting. I'm glad I'm going to be there listening, but it's going to be a fascinating meeting tomorrow. I just don't see how it works out so perfectly.
I mean, seriously, did he go to school?
What, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Alabama. I took Econ 101. I was reading Sports Illustrated in the back, and I think I got a C-.
Get the point.
But that you get the point. I mean, he was obviously 2 rows behind me, reading something else and not paying attention because he's like, "Oh, they steal from us." What's he talking about? It's called free trade. It's called a global system where we benefit from what Canada does well. Canada benefits from us. This whole idea, like him sitting there. I understand if you're trying to get a better deal on tariffs. I get that. But for Howard Lutnick to sit there and act so completely ignorant about why certain car parts might be made in Canada better, you know, because it's cheaper for American consumers, and why we may do certain things better here and we export to Canada. I mean, like, who's he trying to convince there?
You know, well, it could be that he actually has a lack of knowledge about the topics you were just talking about.
Isn't he like a billionaire?
Let me ask you. You would know this better than anybody here at this table. The word is that Lutnick and Witkoff, the president's personal negotiator, are the 2 weakest links in the Trump administration hierarchy at the top.
Well, there's been some internal pushback on both. We've seen Lutnick definitely been isolated in some of these trade talks in the last few weeks. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has stepped more to the forefront. They've also pushed Peter Navarro aside. But it's a constant jockeying for Trump's attention and what he wants. But it's also the mixed signals we're getting here. I mean, yes, it's unlikely that a deal gets struck today, but their administration keeps trying to prime the pump, saying, "Oh, deals are close, deals are close, deals are close," with a variety of countries. But when they're pressed for details, turns out deals aren't that close. I mean, some progress made with India, that's been reported, a little bit with Japan, but nothing is on the horizon. And we have seen the markets have stabilized some, right, but only some. And I think there's a real concern here that the 30-day pause is going to, it's running out, it ran out, and now the 90-day pause, could run out, and then we may have more, strife here. There's real pressure to get something done, and yet nothing seems that close.
I think I'm in the minority here. I really do think this is all not a bait and switch. I really think this still is negotiations. You see the markets going up to 40, 41. They were down to 36, 37. And the reason I say that is the people that go in and talk tough or don't let Donald Trump run over them, he deals with them. Like you look at the Mexican president, Sheinbaum. They have a good relationship, right? And from everything I've heard inside the White House, Donald Trump has had good calls with Mark Carney. He likes Mark Carney. He respects him because, he's done a heck of a lot of things and he understands the process and he's not going to get run over. So who knows? Maybe Lutnick going on there saying all of that nonsense is just to set up negotiations with Mark Carney. Who knows? Maybe it goes badly, but you look at what happened with British Prime Minister Starmer. They had a good relationship. He has a good relationship with Macron. We'll see what happens with Carney and if that leads to a deal at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump's default setting in a negotiation is to start by punching the person across the table in the face, dazing them a little bit, and
See
then
how they
saying,
respond.
now we can talk. It's a strange welcome, Claire McCaskill, for one of our closest allies for the president to say, I don't know why he's coming. Apparently he wants to talk to me. Everybody wants to talk to me. Then to have your Commerce Secretary call it a socialist regime and attack Canada and our trading relationship with them. So it's certainly, I guess, a different approach. It remains to be seen if it works, because for all the talk about this being a negotiation, there haven't been many deals, if any, negotiated around these tariffs.
Yeah, well, maybe the reason he's coming is to thank him. Carney has one person that he really needs to thank for getting elected, and that's Donald Trump. It is the anti-Donald Trump sentiment in Canada that saved Carney and his party. They were like 20 points down until Trump decided he was going to pick a fight with our closest friend and ally. And now we are very much out of favor and with Canadians, and Carney knows it. So Carney's certainly not going to come in there and bend the knee. That would be political suicide for him. But I'll tell you who hasn't called. She hasn't called. China has not called, and Donald Trump knows it. And that is really telling. The difference between Donald Trump and the guy who runs China is the guy who runs China doesn't care about polls. And they're busy opening other markets and really coalescing a whole bunch of folks into trade agreements, while Donald Trump is stubbornly waiting for somehow Xi to call and say, yeah, oh, you're right. We're going to really change the way we do business with you. And meanwhile, ships aren't showing up in ports. We got a big problem, because it's only going to be a matter of like 30 days until we start seeing the really result of what this guy has done. The destruction that he is bringing upon our economy to American jobs is going to start showing its ugly face in about 30 days.